Well, hi there, everybody. My name is Braden Thorvaldson, and as you can tell from my much more relaxed cadence and staying slightly further away from the pop filter this time, this is an episode of What No You Explain, where I bring in the great, the good, and really my friends and co-podcasters to sort of separate out my work, to basically do my job for me, if you're going to be slightly uncharitable about it. And today I've got one heck of a guest. In fact, he is a guest that not only talks into microphones for a living, he does it in front of a camera to boot. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Gates.
Hello, internet world and beyond. I am Gates.
See, that's Gates. See, listen to those dulcet tones. You can tell that somebody pays him money to do this.
I don't know why, but here we are.
Yeah, don't say anything about it. They've not only paid you money, they have relocated you. So
that's also true.
Yes, exactly. So again, you must be good at this. You must be good at this. And if you're not, don't tell them about it for the love of God. You're doing well.
I won't let them know that this episode is aired, just so
it's fine. It's fine. We're actually surprisingly big in Germany, but I don't think that's a situation that'll show up too often. Perfect. But first, I don't know, man. But first of all, how are you doing on this magnificent, it's probably a spring day.
Well, I'm doing well. Spring in the prairies right now is kind of typically what you'd expect. There's a lot of snow on the ground, lots of sunlight though. Just being cooped up inside, I think is a good option for me today anyway. That's for sure. I do want to bring up though, because we brought up the whole me working in media situation. I have to say that we are going to be recording this episode on my 1 year today of entering the media world. So 1 year ago, I moved to a completely different town, not the one that I'm in right now, but I moved away from my hometown to start this whole new dream. So doing it for a year now. So it's kind of cool that I get to do, kind of spend the day with you, Braden, and kind of running this job.
Well, happy anniversary to you then.
Oh, thank you.
I would say you are welcome, and thank you for choosing to spend it with me.
Of course.
I say choose. I think that was kind of like more my desperate, like, do you have time here? Do you have time here? Please say yes. Thank you for letting me take over your anniversary is pretty much what I'm saying.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Oh, you are very kind. All right. So again, on your anniversary, it seems only fair that I give you a gift. And also, just as previous episodes, it just seems kind of shitty, for lack of a better word, for me to take over your time without giving you something in return. So, given that you have mentioned off-air that you have an appreciation for a stupid history, or at the very least, you don't have a non-appreciation for it.
Very true. I love stupid history.
Oh, thank God, because that's what I've got for you.
Amazing.
The story I'm bringing you today is, at the very least, one of the oldest mysteries in North America. One that reaches back to the very foundations of the European presence here. I am, of course, talking about the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Now, the initial telling of the story is that 1587, a small colony was founded on an island just off the eastern coast of what is now known as North Carolina. Mm-hmm. We're going full narrator here, Gates.
Oh, here we go.
Letting you know.
I love this.
This was, in fact, the second attempt at a presence on the island, with an expedition headed by Sir Walter Raleigh retreating back to England the previous year due to tensions with the local Native Americans. But 100 settlers under Governor John White returned to the island that Raleigh got chased off of and created their own settlement. Due to the difficulty of the first winter there, Governor White returned to England to get supplies for the nascent village. But upon his return, he found that the entire village, including his wife and newborn child, had vanished. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no.
With the only clue to what happened was the word Croatoan being carved into a sign nearby, and CRO into various trees nearby. An approaching storm drove off the crew before they could search further, and they returned back to England empty-handed. So, Gates, how do 100 people vanish without a trace? It's a mystery that's never been solved. except it actually kind of super has.
Oh God, I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, see, you got to put a little bass in there. Say it's curious.
I'm so invested.
All right, good. All right. So again, this telling primarily spread by White himself, the governor who went back to England. It tends to, gloss over a bunch of details. The start of it being that these settlers were absolutely not hardy, trained woodsmen and explorers on their own. They were city folk with not a lot of survival training. It's for all intents and purposes, basically, if I went to downtown Ottawa, grabbed a couple hundred people, and sent them basically just like, great, you're on your own. You're on your own. Good luck. So that first winter would hit them like an absolute truck. Additionally, they were in a place that had only been very briefly explored previously, with no idea of how to properly hunt, gather, or really even grow anything themselves. So, put briefly, and again, I'm going to use the technical historical term, they were kind of fucked. So, when their supplies ran out, their leader decided to leave and head back to England to get more supplies. Guess how long he was gone for?
Oh, gosh. Well, if we're talking back then, it's got to be months, right?
3 years. Admittedly, White did have to deal with avoiding the Spanish Armada, which was in the process of invading England to try and absorb it into the Spanish Empire. But still, this is a lot further than going to the convenience store to get a pack of cigarettes time. Again, kind of on that, but for comparison, the Mayflower took only 10 weeks to get from England to what is now Massachusetts. So around the 6 months to 1 year mark after their leader went away and just like, okay, no, we're going to go get some supplies, I would say the colonists probably had assumed he was either dead or not coming back. So you had 100 settlers who had no idea what they're doing, no leader, and morale in an absolute tailspin. So that's part of it. So what about the mysterious carvings that said Croatoan on it? Well, turns out there is in fact a Croatoan island nearby, which is now known as Hatteras Island. This was populated by a tribe of Native Americans who coincidentally happened to be experts in surviving in this sort of territory because they had done so for thousands and thousands of years.
Of course.
They were nearby enough to have seen a couple of enormous English tall ships landing, sticking around for a while, and then leaving. Again, the English tall ships were around for a few months, so again, long story short, if you notice, for all intents and purposes, an alien ship appearing somewhere on the other side of town, even if you don't live there, it's going to come up. So again, much of the tensions between the first expedition out there, headed by Sir Walter Raleigh, and the local Native Americans could probably have been boiled down to Raleigh was a soldier, trained to see anything that was not familiar to him that even seemed vaguely threatening as an enemy. So one loose shot ending in a fatality on the Native American side would have been enough to start the vaguely worded tensions, which caused Raleigh's retreat. So again, the settlers, I would reckon, were probably a little bit less intimidating than the initial exploratory force, given that they were civilians, women and children, all probably at the time of the year, the end of the first year, in various cases of starvation. So the primary theory is that the Croatoans basically just adopted the colonists into their tribe to help them survive, and they all headed over to Croatoan Island. This does kind of tend to be supported by the fact that many of the Croatoan tribespeople met kind of like 30, 40, 50 years ago, had blue eyes, blonde hair, and were using the same surnames as some of the colonists from Roanoke. So it's a lot less of a mysteriously vanished and more of our leader fucked off for 3 years. We put up a sign saying where we were going, and he just never followed up.
They didn't even try, it seems like.
Nope, I would say they took a quick look around. There was a storm coming in. They retreated back to England.
Oh my gosh.
And thus is the story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke.
Amazing. That is hilarious.
It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid.
That had like Unsolved Mysteries vibes until the second half when it was just like, no, we need to survive, so we needed to find people to help us survive.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Honestly, 3 years of if the Croatoans had not shown up, yeah, no, it'd be 100 bodies. It would be 100 bodies, not even a question. Because 3 years no.
That's hilarious. That is a great story.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed. Listen, I'm glad you enjoyed it. But not to put you on the spot. Well, I can't necessarily say I put you on the spot because I briefed you about this extensively.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gates.
Yes.
I hear you brought a story too.
I have. And it's actually kind of a decent segue when you kind of mention that, you're taking a group of people and you're kind of isolating them and not really having, these people not really having any real idea of what they're doing until you kind of just have to put them to work.
Okay.
It may not necessarily be on an island, except, there are reality TV shows that do put people on islands. While I'm not talking about Survivor, I will be telling you a story about another competitive reality TV show. We'll be talking about Big Brother today. And I'm going to be telling you why the Canadian iteration of Big Brother is much, much better than the American version. And specifically why the second season of Big Brother Canada is about as close to perfect competitive reality TV as you can probably get. And I'm going to explain to you why. Now, I don't have a story structure. So again, bear with me. There's going to be a ton of bouncing around, and I'm going to try my best to explain to you why this season.
We love a story about Canadian exceptionalism here, Gates. Go for it.
100%. It's also ironic considering the fact that the parent company that I work for produces this show. That's all I'm going to say. But they did not pay me to do this episode.
But could they have? I would say, are you leaving money on the table? Are you leaving money on the table now?
I feel like an email should have been sent to be like, hey, I'm going to promote something that happened 9 years ago that the company produced. So maybe a little bit,
but maybe it looks real. But it's going to make them look really good. So I think you could get a bonus, or at the very least, a favorable review.
I will take an extra day off at this point. All right, are you ready, Braden?
I would say, okay, you're good. I was just going to say, you're going to lowball it. Yes, I am, Gates.
All right. Well, Braden, let me take you back to March 5th, 2014. All right. This was the premiere date of the second season of Big Brother Canada. 9 years ago, just over 9 years ago, actually. So capitalizing on a very, very successful first season of the Canadian iteration of Big Brother, following, in the footsteps of the American version that has been airing since the year 2000. It's been going on for a long time and still airing today. The second season aired on the now actually defunct network of, I believe it was called Slice. The TV show, or the TV network was called Slice.
Okay.
Does not exist anymore. I think it did get bought up by Global and Chorus. So that's why I have kids now. But this is kind of like the season where they've had the first season to kind of, get its feet wet, kind of figure out what kind of a show that they wanted to put on. And now the second season, they really came out guns blazing. So if you're not familiar, are you familiar with the TV show, Braden?
I won't lie to you, I'm not. It's one of my pop culture just blank spots.
Perfect. Allow me to fill that void for you today.
Love it.
So I'm obviously a very large reality TV buff. Essentially, the game of Big Brother, you stick a whole bunch of people in a house every week. There are competitions for power and for safety, and kind of just like any other competitive reality TV show. After a certain amount of episodes during the week, the house will come together and essentially vote each other out of the house, also known as evictions. So goal is really to be the last house guest standing in the house. And in the Canadian version, you do take home $100,000, as well as a whole bunch of different, unique prizes, because in order for the show to make money, it must just have sponsors kind of right out of its ass. I believe the current season right now that's airing has like 11 sponsors, which is
good Lord.
Yeah, and they are heavily featured. And I'm going to go into one of the ones that are heavily featured on this season. But that's essentially the concept. Survival of the fittest. Kind of just have to play a very balanced game of strategy, a lot of social, have really good social cues, and be able to win these competitions. So the season starts, and 15 random people around the country enter the house, and usually I'll just talk about how that first week went, but the first day of this season is actually incredibly important for the rest of the setup of this season. So how this really works is each group, all 15 people don't go in kind of right away. They're kind of split up into different groups, just so Canada can be introduced to all of these people at different times. They're not completely overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
So the first 5 people that go in, there's there's a mother of 2 who goes in. There's a bar manager. There's someone who was unemployed and literally put under his occupation training for Big Brother. Yeah, some people just, they go hard when it comes to these. So
it worked. So who are we to say?
They got on. Absolutely. Okay. So these first 5 people get, complete strangers. They get into the house. At first you would think that they're just kind of, trying to get to know each other and all that. But no, within 5 minutes of entering the house, these first 5 people form the very first alliance of the show. So right away we are greeted with, okay, this season is, they're taking the training wheels off. These guys came to play. They are ready to go. They're really sticking to it. So the next group comes in, pleasantries are exchanged, and then the last group enters. And now we have 15 house guests in the house, getting ready to get to know each other and try to figure out, night 1, how to play this game. So essentially the first week goes relatively quiet. A motivational speaker who is 43 ends up winning the very first head of household, which is the ultimate power. You're granted immunity for the week, but it is also your job to nominate 2 people for eviction from the game. So he decides to play it fairly safe, doesn't really, rock the boat too much, puts up essentially 2 people who were knocked out fairly early in that competition to determine that head of household. And people didn't want to ruffle any feathers, so they really take out, the whole house really is on board unanimously to take out a very weak player. Then we are granted with a bombshell. So this season, kind of after this first week, was now touted as the season of secrets. So what we learn is that 3 more house guests are now eligible to enter the house, but Canada is going to be voting in only 1. So now you have these 3 more random people that have now been sequestered in a secret part of the house. They are spying on the rest of the house guests who have no idea that their existence, that they even exist, and they are campaigning to Canada. It consists of a sheet metal fabricator, a registered nurse, and a drag queen.
Are they in the walls? I would say how? It's just are they? Sorry, go. I'm intrigued.
Yes. So yes, you are correct. They are in the walls. There is a section cordoned off behind a false wall in the house that they are essentially living in. So when I was watching this season back, the drag queen, you know, very energetic, very outgoing. I thought he was a shoo-in to get into the house. But the registered nurse ends up, I guess, charming the pants off of Canada, and she ends up entering the house in week 2. Now, week 2 becomes a little dicey because now this first 5 alliance that I mentioned kind of at the beginning has taken over the power of the game. And they are really, you know, playing hard. You know, they're not going to do what happened in the first week, take out a really weak player. They're trying to go after someone who's very strong in the game. They essentially do that. There's a, you know, the person they end up taking out has been billed as a meathead to Canada, someone who literally just goes to the gym and seemingly, you know, has rocks for brains. But in the 2 weeks that this person, you know, was on our TVs leading up to their subsequent eviction, you know, it's either through the power of editing or this person actually being a genuinely good person, you know, kind of turns the tide, really brings Canada on his side, and, you know, really, you know, just make sure that he's like, you know, I'm actually not a dumb, like a dumb jock. I'm actually a good person. He actually ends up forming an alliance in like a minority alliance, and ends up learning. Sorry, I'll bring this back. So he, you know, big dumb jock, but ends up befriending one of the players who is Muslim in the house, and ends up, you know, really getting an appreciation for him and his religion, and ends up praying with him every day, kind of leading up to his eviction. So I thought that was a really kind of cool touch, you know. So that's something that this show has done really well, is that, you know, they bring in all these stereotypical you know, personalities, right? They want to fill these, you know, the jock role, the ditzy blonde or whatever, the meathead, things like that. But they end up, you know, growing in front of your eyes, which I think is kind of really cool about this show. So now we're at a point where these major players are starting to steamroll the house a little bit. So I'll fast forward now. Now this new player who has now emerged from the walls essentially is now part of the game, and this first half of the game is really just dominated by this power alliance of this core group of 5, which again is incredibly surprising because it was again formed within the first 5 minutes of entering the house. Let's fast forward to week 4. So there was someone who wins head of household who is not part of this first 5 alliance, but is working adjacently with a few of the alliance members. And she decides to put up kind of 2, you know, random targets, not really wanting to, again, ruffle any feathers. Essentially, it's kind of like, I like to hearken it to a week of high school where you have the 2 kind of catty cliques of girls kind of going after each other. So one clique ends up winning and wants to take out, you know, the other popular girl on the other side. Thing. But things start to take a bit of a toll. One player decides to try to push the envelope a little bit and tries to influence the head of household to a point where she has now agitated the whole house. And it's like, okay, well, feel like she's overplayed her hand. Now she's going to go up on the block and she might now get evicted. So this ends up happening. And it seems like it's going to be a straightforward week. We're just going to, you know, evict her, kind of boring TV. Well, the producers decide to throw a bit of a wrench into the situation. So she's isolated in the backyard, kind of away from the rest of the house guests. And she is posed with 2 choices. On one table were a bunch of letters from home for everyone in the house. So all their loved ones wrote letters to kind of, you know, encourage them, things like that. And on the other table is a check for $5,000. Now, in order to win the $5,000, she has to shred these letters from home.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now she also has the choice. She can try to curry favor with the rest of the house by allowing everyone to have their letter from home. Maybe this is the lifeline that she needed to stay in the game, essentially. Well, she provided Canada with one of the greatest moments of television history when she essentially was giving the middle finger to the rest of the house and began to shred the letters one by one. What she didn't know was that the rest of the house was watching this happen.
Oh my God.
The amount of death stares that she was getting when the divider opened up to reunite the backyard with the house, you could cut the tension with a knife. But this is one of the many reasons why this season is so good in terms of the strategy, social game, physical game, but also just really, really good TV. Which leads us to the next week.
Okay.
This is only the next week kind of going in.
Oh my God.
So now, again, I was kind of reiterating that this first 5 alliance was steamrolling the house. They were going to have their way. Well, producers decide that Canada should now be the head of household for this week.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll come to learn if you ever get into Big Brother that the big difference between the American version and the Canadian version is that the public gets involved with these episodes. So Canada now has a say, and they are not having this alliance continue to steamroll the house.
All right.
They're like, F that. They decide to nominate two members of that alliance, and that was the signal for the rest of the house to really start playing the game.
Okay.
Because again, with that first 5 really dominating the game, you really never got to see how the rest of the house was living. And now it was essentially the misfits who were starting to run away with the game. So after Canada becomes the head of household, this first 5 alliance starts to scramble, and now they are essentially decimated within 2 weeks. I think there are only I think 2 of the 5 members end up surviving past the halfway point.
So Canada took the first shot, and then just everyone else just went in knives out.
Yeah, the rest of the house took that as a sign that, okay, these people are not appreciated by the viewers, so they're going to take the first shot. We'll take the rest, and they end up taking out 3 of them, kind of in succession.
38 million people can't be wrong, Gates. 38 million people can't be wrong.
Very true. So now we are essentially in the back half of the game. The remaining players, I can kind of now go into them a little bit. There is a very dominant pair. Essentially a hockey player and a fashion designer have now joined forces. Kind of ironic because they're both from both ends of the country. One was from Newfoundland, one was from North Vancouver. They joined forces, and now they are kind of now running the game from both a strategic and a physical point. The blonde girl that was almost evicted in like the second or third week by the whole catty clicks was now in a lot of power. The guy who had his meathead friend evicted in the second week was now also in the dominant alliance. And you really got to see the back half of this game was incredibly messy from a gameplay standpoint, which again provided Canada with a ridiculous amount of good TV. So I'll fast forward a little bit to week 8. So week 8, we were sitting with, I believe, 7 players left. And one of the players who is really made known to the rest of the house that he has a real distaste for one of the players, essentially just puts her on blast in front of Canada, just calls her out. And it's a game, you really want to try and avoid throwing personal attacks in,
Mm-hmm.
he went fairly low.
Gotcha.
And it provided a major blow up in the house, and the fight was pretty good. It was really great. It was good TV. She even said it to herself, "Do you want good TV, Canada? Because this is how you get good TV."
Okay.
Yeah. So she ends up being kind of the villain of the end game, essentially. So this power alliance of four was kind of left with her on the outs when it comes to the final five. And the final four really thought that they were just going to be that final four. And she throws a wrench into the whole situation by winning the final five head of household, completely throwing a complete wrench into everything.
Ooh.
So she does a good job of mixing up the house. That final four alliance is now dead and gone. And we essentially now kind of get to the end game. So I mentioned that this hockey player and this fashion designer have been running the game since kind of the midway point. And it really felt like that they were going to be the final two players left. And then the third being this now, villainess who wants good TV. So in the final week, essentially the head of household competition becomes a 3-part competition. Both of these alliance members win part 1 and 2, so they go against each other in part 3. And on finale night, everyone is just expecting, okay, the guy whose name is John is going to take his ride or die, whose name is Netta, all the way to the final 2, and they're just going to duke it out. The 2 best players of the season, kind of having Sabrina, who is the third in this situation, go by the wayside. Super easy out. John gets up in front of Netta and Sabrina and the rest of Canada and starts to do his little speech. And this is when I remember watching this live. And in my head, it's like, I think something big is about to happen.
Okay.
I think John is going to make the move of the game on the last day. And he ends up cutting his ride or die, Netta, in 3rd place.
No way.
Yeah. So she is incredibly upset. The death stares at him are incredibly evident. But I think if you've watched these competitions before, that was the move that solidified his win in the end, because he has now brought an incredibly unlikable person and made perhaps the biggest game move that anyone could have made at the time.
Because you want to win. So you don't want to necessarily take somebody with you that might beat you.
Absolutely. And if he had brought her, she would have won, in my opinion. So he makes the move of the game, ends up winning over the jury, which is a jury of their peers, wins the game 6-1. And it ends up being, again, it was an early season, but it set such a precedent for the remaining seasons that hasn't been lived up to. Big Brother Canada is now on its 11th season currently, and I have not seen a season even reach the potential that this one set. Now, it could be gameplay, it could be just the simplicity of production, the lack of twists. Like there was the really big one in week 5 where Canada took over.
I was just going to say the sheet metal fabricator in the wall, I think, counts as a pretty big twist game.
Yeah. The first half of this game was like, it seemed like it was twist loaded, but then they kind of just let the players play kind of in the second half of the season. And it generated amazing strategic gameplay. Just watching these players scramble with their social games and provided, again, some of the best reality TV that I've seen almost ever. And again, I've been watching this show since it came out and has not lived up to season 2. So super high level summary, chock full of spoilers, but I hope that I did it, somewhat justice. And it's one of those seasons that you have to watch. And I do have to say that there is a condensed version on YouTube that is only 2.5 hours,
Okay.
which is what I watched last night. So.
Spectacular. You know what? I won't lie to you. You sold me on this. That might be the end of my evening. Just like, great. I'm going to catch up on this. I now have questions because the minute you mentioned the 3 people pretty much in the walls, I was just like, my first instinct. And again, this is probably just out of the sheer amount of murder mysteries that I read. Oh God, they're just going to basically just like grab 3 people, murder them, and then just take them. Well, not probably actual murder them because, you know, there's some limits, but like, great. Just like grab them, take them out. And it's just like, great. You 3 people, congratulations. If you can take them out, you're in.
That's right.
Take their life for your own.
You can replace them.
Yep. Season 12. I'm going to say that's going to be their thing of just like 12th anniversary. I would say 10th anniversary of season 2. Great. There's going to be 3 people on the walls. They can take you.
We're actually physically committing a crime here.
Yes, we're absolutely. It's not just a social experiment anymore. No, this is going to be.
Correct. Yeah. And this season, I'm glad you mentioned social experiment, right? Because that's kind of how this show started. But this season really cemented how the game should be played both strategically and from an entertainment perspective as well.
Thank you very much for showing us that, Gates. I can safely say I knew nothing about Big Brother. I am now almost committed to watching a 2.5 hour summary of a TV series. So that's a big reversal for me. So thank you.
You won't regret it. I promise.
I have faith. And if not, I'll let your partner know about it.
Perfect. I'd expect nothing less.
That's all I need. All right. So I've told you my story. You told me yours. Gates, how's your bullshit detector?
Oh, man. I want to say that it's good, but I also don't really use it in my personal life very often. So
no, that's fair. That's fair. Your professional bullshit meter's strong. Your personal one, TBD. All right. So, Gates, right now we're going to play a game of 2 truths and a lie.
All right.
We're actually going to play a few of them, depending on your philosophical outlook. I'm going to give you 5 categories. You're going to sort of pick 1, 2, and then 3.
Perfect. Okay.
And again, I'll do 3 statements on each. One of them is a lie. 2 of them are basically truths that I couldn't necessarily stretch out into a full 10 to 15 minute long episode. So, but again, I have like 60 of them in a Word document somewhere. I needed to use them somehow.
Of course. Absolutely.
All right. So, Gates, I would say your choice of categories. Number 1, Nick Castellanos, Master of Timing. Number 2, Strange Places. Number 3, Sports facts that have very little to do with sports. Number 4, Man's Best Freeloader.
Oh, wow.
Number 5, What in the World? Which one do you want to do first?
Oh, these are all really fun. Okay. Well, I would be doing a disservice to the people who know me being a big sports fan to not go for the sports one first. But the fact that they're not really sports related, that's where it's going to get me. So let's go with the sportsy one first.
All right. Sports facts that have very little to do with sports.
Okay, I'm very excited right now.
Oh, good. See, listen, I just don't want you bored.
Of course.
That's all I need. All right. So, sports facts that have very little to do with sports. Statement the first. According to his autobiography, A View from Above, Wilt Chamberlain slept with just under 2,000 women in his life. He credits this feat of charisma to his athletic talents, good looks, and general persistence. His friends also said that his lifelong case of insomnia also probably contributed to the situation, as if he couldn't sleep on a road trip, he often went to the bar to pick up women.
Okay.
Number 2. Due to flagging viewership numbers in past events, in the upcoming Paris 2024 Summer Games, head-to-head breakdancing is being added into the event for the first time. This event, combined with skateboarding, surfing, and sport rock climbing, is considered by the organizers to be the best way to attract youth to watching and participating in these sorts of events. Statement the third. Golf was banned in Scotland in 1457 by King James II because it was feared that the young people of Scotland would slack off in their archery practice due to spending time golfing. Since they were fighting off England at the time, the King's edict read that archery competitions would be held 4 times a year. A set of targets would be added to each parish, i.e. town, and anyone caught playing golf would be punished.
Wow. Well, first of all, these are great. These are great facts.
Why, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
One of them's even a lie.
That's true. One of them was written so well that it's actually a lie. So I won't take up too much time kind of in between these, but I do like to talk these things out.
Oh, God, please. I would say, Gates, give us the content. My God.
Of course, absolutely. So right off the bat, I know competitive breakdancing. I'm about 90% sure that because again, I don't know sometimes, right? But I'm about 90% sure that competitive breakdancing will be in the upcoming Olympics. I'm fairly certain that statement number 2 is the truth. Now, to find the separation between Wilt Chamberlain and King James,
yep,
that one is tough because Wilt Chamberlain was very, very good. It was in his time, and I could absolutely see him doing that. And you have Scotland just being a premier destination for a very prominent golf course.
Oh yes.
Wow, this is very good. I'm actually going to say that. Oh wow, Wilt. the fact about Wilt Chamberlain sleeping with over 2,000 women,
just under 2,000 women,
just under 2,000 women. As much as I want to believe he could have that kind of pull, I just don't think that is true. So I'm going to say the statement about Wilt Chamberlain is the lie.
Well, Gates, I have good news and I have bad news for you.
Oh, no.
The good news is you are correct. The bad news is you are wrong about the pull of Wilt Chamberlain. It is just under 20,000 women, according to his statement.
Oh, my God. Good.
I would say, again, for this time, there is a very significant period of time where, hi, I'm Wilt Chamberlain, is all kind of he needed. Not to mention, he doesn't sleep and he has a sex addiction. Wow. So.
Fair. I would also, I guess for the time, there's a lot of promiscuity during that time. I should have factored that in, but.
Oh, absolutely. It's also just, hi, I'm Wilt Chamberlain. Would you like to have sex with me?
Also just thinking, it's just like, that is a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Apparently.
Possible,
See, the thing is, apparently he appreciated a threesome or a foursome as well. So again, it's not just a 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 sort of thing.
There's a lot of factors that went into that. Okay,
absolutely,
fair.
Absolutely. And again, it's what he says. So again, grain of salt. It's an autobiography.
That number might actually be smaller.
Yeah, it might only be 18,000 because nobody has said. No, that's ridiculous. A lot of people have said, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right.
Wow.
He was not much of a video game player, Magic the Gathering. No. I would say he's just like, no. He's going straight to the bars. Straight to the bars.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. Not even a question. Hi, I'm Wilt Chamberlain. All right.
Little line.
Gates, you are one. I would just say you are 1 for 1. Very well done. All right. So we've got 4 more categories left. Nick Castellanos, Master of Timing. Strange Places. Man's Best Freeloader. And What in the World?
All right. I will take What in the World for 500.
Well, all right. I was just going to say that's going to be a slightly different Canadian host that you're talking to, but well, I can give that a try. All right. I would say, What in the World? These are statements about, as you might have gathered, places all around the world.
Perfect.
So, statement the first. Paris, France is one of the most romanticized cities in the world. A top honeymoon destination with magnificent views of the Eiffel Tower, rich food, and richer history. However, Paris has been very much shown as a city somewhat unmoored from time, with people riding bicycles, eating outdoors, and presumably being very handsome and making consensual passes at tourists who have traveled to Paris after a traumatic breakup. Does the reality match up to the hype? Well, according to the Japanese embassy, it does not. In fact, there was such an issue with Japanese tourists being disappointed with Paris, the embassy set up a hotline to help them deal with what they dubbed Paris syndrome, which made them physically sick with the amount of disapproval they felt from having their idealized Paris shattered by reality.
Okay.
Statement number 2. There's an island in Japan that is entirely populated by fuzzy rabbits. Okunoshima was an island that was used as a poison gas facility from 1929 to 1945, and was so secret that it was removed from local maps, and residents in the area were told to keep away from it. In the 1960s, 5 individual rabbits were introduced to the island and then basically left alone. Almost half a century later, there are over 1 million rabbits on the island, as well as a campground and a 6-hole golf course.
Amazing.
Number 3. Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, has a very particular set of facilities in their airport. In the Brasilia President Juscelino Kubitschek International Airport, say that 5 times fast,
Nope.
just before each of the terminals leading towards the baggage claim for international flights, they have multiple pamphlets mentioning that the main language in Brazil is Portuguese, not Spanish. They also offer complimentary Portuguese to Spanish dictionaries, as well as pamphlets explaining a brief history of Brazil to visitors from other countries. This was put into place due to the sheer amount of tourists coming into Brazil expecting everyone to speak Spanish. Brazil, as the only country in South America with Portuguese as their official language, eventually decided to cut their losses and provide potentially confused tourists with the information.
Wow. Another really well-written set of truths and lies.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I am now going back into the bubble.
All right, talk it out.
We'll talk it out. So I can absolutely understand that people who have seen these romanticized versions of Paris would be incredibly upset to actually see what Paris could be, or what Paris is now, because, it's Hollywood. There's always a very stereotypical thing to draw on when you're talking about Paris. You're always going to see the Eiffel Tower somewhere in the background.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So I can absolutely see tourists being upset. Now, could they be upset to the point that a hotline needs to be installed that they can air their grievances? We'll see. Fact number 2, an island of misfit rabbits, you say. Now, again, incredibly believable. Kind of an abandoned island at first, and then, you throw a bunch of rabbits on there. What do rabbits like to do?
Do their things. Yep.
Exactly. Be fruitful, multiply. So I can understand that millions of, over 1 million or a large amount of rabbits now are the primary inhabitant of this particular island. My only qualm with this one is that you would think that because, there's a 6-hole golf course there, that you would see a lot of this maybe on like social media and things like that. A very popular, maybe it's a popular touristy kind of destination, but I haven't really seen a lot of this particular, I guess, island on. You
would assume that it'd be like on a BuzzFeed article or something.
Just being like, look at this wild island with all the rabbits. Can't say that I've seen many, or if any at all. Now we head over to South America. I absolutely believe that the government would help tourists, because I feel like, again, surrounding countries, you're in South America, you would assume that Spanish is the dominant language. But, you're entering essentially the biggest country in South America, and it's like, no, they actually don't. So I feel like that one, to me, is probably probably one of the truths. And if I were to potentially even flip a coin at this point, because that's how close I think these Paris and Japan island are in terms of what they, which one could be the lie. I think just based on the amount of exposure or the lack of exposure that I've seen about this island, I think the Bunny Island, in Japan is the lie. So I think the hotline is the truth, and I think the Brazilian government in the airport, Portuguese, Spanish confusion is also the truth.
All right, we are locking it in.
We'll lock that answer in.
All right, we'll lock that in. I think that's a different quiz show, but we're gonna roll with it. We're
hopping all over the map on this one for sure.
Exactly, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
I'm waiting for the wheel spin. I'm waiting for the wheel spin at the end.
Well, I have good news and I have bad news for you, Gates.
Braden, you can't do that every time.
Joke's on you. I can, and I will.
But it's your show. It's your show. It's all you.
All right. The bad news is that you are wrong. I would say that there is a rabbit island. In fact, I would say the Brazilian government's position has genuinely been, fuck you, learn Portuguese.
Fair.
But the good news is I'm going to send you a YouTube video that is going to make your fucking day.
Oh my God. Yeah. I need it.
Yeah, you're going to see those fucking rabbits. Yeah, you're going to see those rabbits, man.
I need the visual.
It's going to be great. Yep, I would say, believe me, I would say I'm not gonna lie to you. It really, that when I first saw that video, that was sort of thing of just like, that was one of the ones I was saddest I couldn't expand it out into a full episode. It was like, oh my God, it's so adorable.
Wow. I'm also learning how bad I am at this.
No. You're 1 for 2, dude. You're 1 for 2. Like, no, I think you are the first one that has actually gotten the first one right.
Oh, wow.
Thus far.
Okay. Yeah. I'll hang my head
Thus far. That. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're tied with Haley right now, so deal with that as you will.
Nice.
All right. So I would say for your last one, to again see how you're doing. Nick Castellanos, master of timing. Nick Castellanos is a baseball player. I'm beginning to realize that might be a little bit of a niche thing, but Strange Places and Man's Best Freeloader. Well,
when you mentioned this category as you were listing them off, I knew I had to save it to the end.
Okay.
We want a question about freeloaders, please.
Okay, will do. Okay, I love this. I would say I like a long-term game because I think, not that anyone's told me, but you are the first one that has actually had a long-term plan for this. I love this.
As soon as you listed them off, I'm just like, I know my order. We're doing it. Just sticking to it.
Had it in one. I love this.
Absolutely.
All right. Man's Best Freeloader is I would say it is 3 statements about cats.
Oh, perfect.
Man's best friend, it's a dog. Man's best freeloader, as evidenced by the animal who is sleeping on top of my computer tower.
Amazing.
Absolutely. All right. Statement the first. Scientists have created glow-in-the-dark cats by inserting jellyfish genes. Oh, this makes me sad that this isn't a visual medium because Gates' eyebrows just about left his head.
I hope this is true. Anyway.
I'll start over again. Scientists have created glow-in-the-dark cats by inserting jellyfish genes that create fluorescent proteins into feline eggs. That wasn't the end goal of the experiments, don't get me wrong. The end goal of the experiments was to end AIDS.
Oh.
One of the methods they wanted to determine was that scientists wanted to be able to insert a useful gene into an animal's DNA. However, it's kind of difficult to tell whether or not our gene was actually incorporated into said DNA. Therefore, they attached the jellyfish gene to the gene they wanted to actually incorporate and inserted it into the eggs of the female cats. If the progeny glowed, the experiment was a success. The cats glowed, therefore successful experiment. Statement the second. The cat's meow is in fact a genetic trait descending from their mighty feral ancestors. An example of this is a saber-toothed tiger was rumored to be able to roar at the top of their lungs, claiming a piece of territory for themselves. Any other saber-tooths or potential rivals that heard it would either take that as an indicator to head somewhere else, or see if they could become king of the hill. This sort of behavior is the reason that many cats tend to not get along with one another. Like, there's not many people saying just like, great, I'm going to go bring my cat over. You can play with your cat. No, that's rarely a situation. All right, statement the third. Until the mid-18th century, any ship worth its salt had a ship's cat, primarily to keep mice and other rodents from getting into supply stores. However, to prove the cat was indeed property of the ship, the cat had to travel with a passport and a description of the cat, and it needed to be stamped with their paw.
Again, I have to commend you with how well these are written. These are incredible. I want all three to be true. Like, and I feel like all three are true. So
you think I'm playing a little bit more of a meta game? It's like, joke's on you, man. They're all true.
I'm having a crisis right now. Okay. Okay. Well, as I did with the first two, we're going to talk it out.
Absolutely.
I'm also going to call back to the second question that you asked, because I was so confident with the Brazilian government. I was so confident that was the truth. And I'm applying that to this one, where I'm so confident that the cat's meow is a genetic thing. But I'm trying to rein that in a little bit, because it seems too good to be true.
I would say once bitten, twice shy. I understand.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I could also just be playing myself in this whole situation. And it's like in my head, I almost don't even care that I get this one wrong, because I just want the glow in the dark cat thing to just be true. I'm sticking. I feel like I'm just sticking to that one being true, even though I feel like it's the most far-fetched one. You know, the cat on the ship makes a lot of sense. You know, there's a lot of, you know, rodents and things like that on ships, and you want to not have to deal with that. There's probably a million other things, you know, being on a ship of that stature that are crossing your mind, that dealing with rodents is probably very low on the priority list. Let the cats have their day. Right. The cat passport thing is also very, very cute and believable as well. Oh man, Braden, these are good. These are really good. I'm sticking to my guns, and I'm saying that glow in the dark cat is real.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that it means a follow-up photo from yourself when this is in addition to the Rabbit Island video. So I'm hoping I'm sticking with that one being true. And even if it's false, I've got a great image in my head. I'm actually going to go with the cat's meow being a genetic, you know, kind of carry over into now. That one actually being false. I believe the cats on the ship is the truth, and glow in the dark cats is true in my heart. So I'm going with cat's meow as the lie.
All right. Well, I've got nothing but good news on this front, Gates. You are correct. You doubted yourself into winning. You doubted yourself into winning. Yeah, apparently cats basically just meow to get our attentions. That's just sort of a thing that developed with domesticated cats.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. But I would say pretty much just like they meow in the wild to get their mother's attention, but once they're out in the world,
kind of don't need it. It's very believable. That is something that I could definitely have seen written in a textbook somewhere for sure.
I would say, believe me, the lies are the thing that take the most time.
Oh, I don't doubt that, because you know, taking something so simple and then changing just enough of it,
just
right?
Enough, so, just enough.
But now I'm looking forward to a glow in the dark cat photo.
Oh yeah. I would say I'll send that along. Though some of them look a little Photoshop, but I'll send them along.
It's okay.
Gates, this was spectacular. You got 2 points out of 3. That's a high ranking. With your permission, we'll have you back for the Tournament of Champions when I'm recording that. Because, again, you're higher up in the ranks now. Well done, you.
Nice. I will take that. And I am very much looking forward to doing, you know, this with you again. It was very, very fun. It has also, I learned something about an abandoned island.
Yes.
I've gotten you with a bit of a reality TV itch now, which is...
Yeah. I'm going to watch that, man. I'm going to watch that. All right. Before we let you go, Gates, do you have anything you want to promote? Any projects that you have a couple seasons of maybe that you might want to bring people over to?
Yeah, I think I do. It's currently on hiatus right now because I'm still trying to figure out my life, but I did put together a podcast while I was in quarantine, kind of with everyone else. Podcast is called 2 Meters Apart. There's currently 2 seasons on Spotify or most places that you can find your podcasting. It's essentially just me interviewing my friends who I've known for quite some time, but, you know, wanting to glean a little bit more information about them and, you know, just trying to not be bored during the pandemic. So please check that out. Hopefully it goes goes well, just having in the background, kind of background noise. I also have to promote local news on TV is still very important. Mm-hmm. So I may not necessarily promote my own station that I work at, but please continue to tune in to your local news in the evenings. It is very important that you still consume well written and well thought out journalism. It's surprisingly exists still in the world, and it's always good to keep that up as well. And I got to give a shout out to Nominated. Great podcast.
Absolutely. Great podcast. Absolutely. A great podcast all around. And I will say I have listened to a couple episodes of 2 Meters Apart. You are a very insightful interviewer.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's me again trying to figure out how to really talk to my friends in a different way. So.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, I can relate to, starting a podcast in a pandemic and seeing how that goes.
Exactly.
But anyways,
we're all in the same boat there. So
exactly. Long story short, watch the news, listen to Nominated, listen to 2 Meters Apart. I will put both of those in the show notes when I get that together. Amazing. Gates, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Braden, for the invite and the amazing hour and a bit of fun entertainment. I was thoroughly invested in those facts at the end there, for sure.
Well, I'm glad. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody, and we'll talk to you in either a couple weeks or a few weeks, depending on how the structure of this goes, because, well, we'll see how this goes. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.